mosquitoes, and more. An experienced staff is ready to take your call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Remember, if you're buying, selling, building, or just want peace of mind in your home, you can always trust the man in the red truck.
Mox of Jonesboro is the comfort place. Comfort in seating, featuring Stressless by Acorns, Luna Chair by IMG, and Tempur-Pedic. Mox invites you to come and browse Mox's fine selection of gifts and accessories. Mox of Jonesboro offers the most comfortable chairs in the world. Located on 101 West Main Street in historic Jonesboro. Gift ideas for everyone. Mox of Jonesboro.
Right now, save 50 to 70% off at Banana Republic factory stores and online. And 60% off absolutely everything at Gap factory stores. Save even more with 40% off clearance at Gap factory stores. And at Banana Republic factory, sweaters start at $19.99 and scarves start at $9.99. Hurry! Search our store locator for your nearest Gap factory and Banana Republic factory store, or shop us online.
Welcome back to Tri-City Sports Now. One of the things we do on this show with me, Marky Billson, is talk a little bit about the way, in fact, we talk a lot about the way that media is covered. I ought to do a media watch with this, shouldn't I? You know, there's one problem. Music isn't working today. Homerism in sports media. This is Media Watch. I'm going to have to do this, okay? I'm going to sound like Rush Limbaugh doing okay. This is a story, this Sports Illustrated. It's written by Tim Layden, and it's called Homer, Sweet Homer. You can see it here. And this is, I just ate this up. I read it while I was eating, in fact, last night. But it just really spoke to me because I know a lot of the media. I'll give you an example. I've always thought that in the Tri-Cities area, the media has been kid gloves. I mean, the Carl Torbush situation is a good thing. You know, you have Joe Vento, Sunday John City Press saying he was the right hire at the right time. He was 11-22. I know of no other coach with an 11-22 record that received more praise with 2 assistants getting arrested than Carl Torbush. Now, like I said, I would have brought him back. But never was he criticized, except really on this show, for saying, oh, we're doing this right the way. We have 4-year players. We've stayed away from junior college transfers. When we're the only people to point out that he had 13 transfers on this year's team. So is he really even still going with that method? And also, the method ain't working. Meanwhile, Kennesaw State, which had 22 transfers on their very first team and beat ETSU by 40 points in their first game, hey, they're in the playoffs. They were in the semifinals of the FCS. You know, they're beating Samford. ETSU is losing to Samford by 32 points. So tell me who's doing better again. All right. But that's what we get around here. Never do they say anything bad. I'm the only, Phil Fulmer is in. John Curry comes on this show. Not John Curry, excuse me. John Bryce comes on this show. The Hall of Fame coach Phil Fulmer will save us all. Didn't quite say that. But, yeah, I mean, it was, hey, do you really trust the guy that gave ETSU an 11-22 coach the keys to the car and for Tennessee and all that? Yes, I do. He's the Hall of Fame coach, Phil Fulmer. So because of 20 years ago, you think as a coach, you think he'll be a good AD. And ignoring a hire that lost a lot more than he won that he already made. Oh, you can't compare. We actually had, and this is total homerism. We actually had John Bryce here start to say, well, it's so much easier to win at Kennesaw State than it is at ETSU because the players are there. Okay, so then should we also say that it's a lot tougher to win at Tennessee, which it is, than Georgia? The same mentality would reign. Well, Tennessee has this grand recruiting budget and blah, blah. They probably need it. All right. And if you haven't noticed, the recruiting now down 61 ranked by rivals. We began the show talking about that. This article leads off, very interesting story. 2016, Michael Wilbon, Cubs win a World Series. Michael Wilbon is in Wrigley Field. He's watching the game as a fan. Little kid, he roots for the Cubs. He's got the money. He's got it taken up. I'm going to be a fan again. I've waited all my life for the Cubs to win a world title. I'm going to go there. He's wearing his Ernie Banks jersey. He's in the stands. He's bought a ticket. He's watching as a fan. Fine, no problem. He gets a message on his cell or something. Hey, we need you. You're at Wrigley Field. We need you on ESPN to do a spot. We need you to come on. Gee, can I do that? I'm wearing my Cubs hat here. I got my Ernie Banks jersey on. No one will notice. No one will care. By the way, you could have probably done a headshot without showing the Cubs jersey, just the shoulders and the head, and say, take off the Cubs hat if you really wanted to. You could hand it to somebody there on the staff at ESPN. It wouldn't have been a big deal. But I do also think Michael Wilbon is enough of a reporter that he could wear not only Cubs gear and remain objective at Wrigley Field, but he could probably do it naked and still do a professional job. Not that I'm encouraging him to do so. But it's Michael Wilbon we're talking about here. Pretty good, top of the field. But we are now in an era where I remember this, and this is kind of what a lot of ways, this is what I was taught. I remember interning at KDKA Radio in Pittsburgh, the nation's first radio station. The one thing they said, when you get in this business, you gotta quit being a fan. And they said it just like that, by the way. And here I was, this passionate sports fan of various teams, And you had to stop doing that. There is a point in this story by Tim Layden. The buzzword is objectivity. Wilbon says objectivity is something you strive for but never reach, and I think that is obviously shown not only in sports reporting, but really in political reporting. But this mentality was very deep. The newspaper, at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, and when I wrote for major newspapers. Not so much, by the way, in smaller newspapers, which is disturbing, but, One of my early colleagues in sports writing, Tim Layden writes, who was once offered condolences after the team he covered lost in the playoffs, says, I don't care. I get paid whether they win or lose. That's a mentality that I had been brought up. Hey, you've got to quit doing this, You've got to quit being... And I'll tell you, there is something to be said for that. When I listen to other sports talk shows and the guy comes off as a fan, hey, congratulations, your team won. He had nothing to do with it. Hey, congratulations, Huckleberry, that the Raiders won. We know they're your favorite team. You're in Tennessee, for crying out loud. Have you ever even been to California? Has nothing to do. They don't even the Raiders don't know this person exists. But yet I have seen in this area newspaper men refer publicly to the team that they cover as we, which is journalistic sacrilege, something that I try to stay away from all the time. But now, a change, brought to us perhaps by Bill Simmons and ESPN, who of course covered sports from a Boston perspective and as a Boston fan. Which is kind of interesting because certainly the Boston Globe, there are a lot of people that say, that was the best sports page. That's the best sports page in the business, the Boston Globe. Oh, the Boston Globe, that's the what? WEEI, that's the biggest, All right. By the way, WEEI actually once tried something along those lines. They once tried to hire a Steelers fan to be a host and sort of be that sort of counterculture and I'll give it to you and all that. And as a host. Didn't work out. Anyway, now the branding is you establish yourself as an expert on Team X because you rooted for Team X when you were 8 years old. I do think this has always been the case in sports talk radio. I really think so. In fact, it's one of the reasons why when I would listen to sports talk growing up, I didn't like the people that would so much come on and say, I am not a fan. I am a journalist and all that. Sports talk's a little different. On the other hand, I feel over here that first, we're not getting enough of a critical reporting of local teams. And I think that does hold the teams back. And I also don't think that around here, anybody really cares that I have season tickets to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I really don't. That I can tell you that, and that's fantastic. And I can tell you that I'm this passionate Steelers fan, and I can come out with that. And oh boy, did I grow. And I remember being in third grade and Linden Elementary before Super Bowl 14, the Friday before, and they dismissed us to the Steeler polka and blah, blah, blah. And you know what? None of you care. I know. And I got to try to stay away from it, to tell you the truth. And because there are 31 other teams' fans, especially around here, where there isn't really a singular team that I'm just going to turn off if I start saying, hey, yeah, the Steelers. Now, the Steelers and Patriots, it's a game of the week. In football, we're going to talk to Paul Zeiss at 1:30 about this. But nevertheless, you wouldn't. Okay. In fact, J.A. Adane, who's a veteran of the Washington Post, LA Times, and ESPN, who now is in his second year of director of sports journalism at Northwestern, says it's not the way that I was taught and trained, this Homer reporting. My professors would be having a fit if they saw it, but it's definitely where we're at. I'll tell you the truth. Like I said, I don't really have, and like I said, I do go into this with Michael Wilbon wearing a Cubs cap. I can also say this. I can remember TV reporters back in the day, back in the 60s, maybe even wearing the cap of the team that they covered. I have seen that on old YouTube videos. So it's been going on a lot, maybe a little more on broadcast media than print. But this does seem to be a problem, I think, because I do think that we are getting a total lack of truth at times in coverage. Okay, sure, the guy, that tells it like it is often looked at as with scorn. Howard Cosell. Around here I say Pete Thamel is the least popular man in Tennessee. You know what, though? He's probably calling it like it is with Phil Fulmer. You got to worry about him being meddlesome. Everybody else, look at the Arizona State athletic director, who may not be in a position to talk, but still has been extremely critical, if you saw this yesterday, of the hire of Fulmer as an athletic director. And supposedly he's the one doing the recruiting, and he's replacing no-name recruits, number 67 in the country at quarterback, from Adrian Martinez, who he loses to go to Nebraska. And there's not any criticism about this here because we're all VFLs. That's disturbing. It's wonderful to root for a team, trust me. I've done it. Don't get me wrong. But let's have a little bit of telling it like it is and all this. And I do. When I listen to talk shows around here, Knoxville especially, before the Georgia Tech game, the opener last year, nobody was really breaking down how Bob Shoop is going to be stopping the option offense. Nobody's really talking about. I'm the only one I know of that said, you know what, Athlon just ranked Tennessee, and they didn't have a single unit on their team that ranked in the upper half of the SEC. Not the quarterbacks, not the defensive backs, not anything. And so maybe it's not that surprising then when they finish with the worst record in the SEC. But instead, Homer Media, what were they doing? Oh, Tennessee will have more fans at the game than Georgia Tech will, and it's in Atlanta. Instead of breaking down, wondering where things are going to be, even looking with some criticism of Butch Jones for not naming a starting quarterback earlier than he did, which I think set the team back all year long. You know, the biggest insult you can give someone in sports journalism to a lot of people is fanboy. Don't be a fanboy. Don't be the host that brags that he's never picked a game against Tennessee. That means he's not giving you honest analysis. I do think that it is journalistic sacrilege, and you got to stay away from we. The idea, you know, look, even as fans, and I can kind of understand it as fans, but you didn't play in that game. They don't know who you are. It's not we. As writers, broadcasters, and podcasters seek an audience share, though, they will increasingly embrace partisan sports writing so that they can get their little niche. I'm going to make this pledge to you. My niche here is to give you the honest commentary, not the homer commentary, in the Tri-Cities.
1420 NBC Sports Radio Tri-Cities on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Sports Radio Update starts now.
Some good news from Indy. I'm Jeff Biggs, and a big sigh of relief today for Chuck Pagano and the Colts. Backup tight end Brandon Williams out of the hospital after another scary hit last night in primetime. Williams went down in the second quarter after a collision during a punt. He was then carted off the